secret BFFs. Oh my god, this movie had it all.
It's so
cute. Commentary.
Nowhere. Nowhere. We just watched Camp Nowhere from 1994, and we're never covering a movie after 2000 again.
Is 1994. What's up? You have selected.
Absolutely not. They truly don't make them like that anymore. And I say that with all sincerity.
Yeah, I know we sound like, oh my god, these millennials love the 90s or whatever. No, this movie was a joy.
Kids these days don't understand the joy of forming your own summer camp.
And breaking every law.
My god, the fact that this movie, spoiler alert, ends with nobody getting arrested is truly shocking.
It's so 90s idyllic. I adore it. The acting is amazing.
It's legitimately good.
It sounds like I'm making that up, but these kid actors are talented.
And visually too, I feel like you just it drops you into the time, the font of the opening credits, the wardrobe, everything. Chef's kiss.
So, why did we watch a kind of obscure Disney movie from 1994?
I honestly don't quite remember how we landed on this. I think we were talking about watching 10 Things I Hate About You, and that led us down the road of an Andrew Keegan retrospective.
Yeah, so I was just going through all the movies on Disney Plus that we might watch. And I included Camp Nowhere because I remember seeing it as a kid and it being so much fun. And I remember enjoying it and also thinking, like, isn't Andrew Keegan the cutest?
So cute. And I feel like when someone says Andrew Keegan, I think of like early aughts heartthrob. And I actually had never seen Camp Nowhere, which is truly bizarre because I feel like it would have been right up my alley.
Absolutely.
I made a lot of comparisons while we were watching to Heavyweights, which was one of my favorite movies. So it would have been up my alley. I don't know how I never saw it, but he's such a little cutie pie in this movie.
He's such a good actor. And yeah, cutie pie, I just want to pick him up and put him in my pocket and take him around with me.
Oh my god, cute.
So cute.
Super cute.
Yeah, he and the main guy, Jonathan Jackson, such a good actor. Wow.
They really were.
Oh, the facial expression. I love how everyone in this movie was just like so into it.
Even having not seen the movie, I felt so much nostalgia watching it. I mean, like the wardrobe in particular, I know that we talked about this a lot when we watched it, but every shirt and sweater was made up all of primary colors. It was like red, blue, yellow, green in stripes, some combination of that.
It's so hideous, but everyone was wearing this stuff. I don't know if we really want to like rewind and start from the beginning because we've basically outlined the movie.
The overarching plot is pretty basic, right? So you've got this ragtag group of kids who don't want to go to their respective,
tortured by their parents for summer.
There are four main characters. They are being sent to respective summer camps that they don't want to go to. Computer camp, army boot camp, whatever, musical theater camp, and of course, fucking fat camp, which again is why I made the comparison to Heavyweights, which is another legitimately good movie that we should watch. But
we should watch that next.
We should. It's one of the early Ben Stiller roles, and it's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. He plays the villain. It's great.
I eat success for breakfast with skim milk.
But yeah, so they decided to form their own summer camp with a questionable authority figure.
I mean, just like an adult. Lloyd. Authority figure, not at all. He doesn't even want to be an authority figure. He is selling stuff at a mall kiosk when our little...
Cheese, specifically.
He's selling cheese at a mall kiosk. And he's being very silly and very ridiculous and comical. And so Mud, our main character, who like has a real name but everyone calls him Mud, Mud spots him, and then when all the kids are talking about their shitty summer camp plans, he and Andrew Keegan are like, we should start a camp.
We should buy a bar. Of course we should buy a bar. We should totally buy a bar.
And then they call this adult man. No, they don't call. They show up to his trailer.
Hi.
Without any adults. They're just like, hey, let's approach this guy and offer him money to run a fake camp with us.
And I think this was the scene where we had the exact thought of, we're never watching a movie past the mid-90s again,
Yep.
because if this
Yep.
movie were made today, Christopher Lloyd's character would be a predator.
Mhm.
Like we are used to Euphoria and just all of that sort of genre. Yeah, I mean, at the risk of making a really bad pun, this movie is just pure like camp and fun. And yeah, so they show up to his trailer. He's not a monster.
He is
just
severely unhinged. Like, if you saw him on the sidewalk, you'd be like, let's stick closer to the wall.
Mhm.
But to these kids in the 90s, he's perfect, right? And I totally get it. That's part of the nostalgia. Like, they're not like, what if he like kidnaps, abducts, and murders us?
No, why would that cross your mind?
They're just like, oh, he's a little weird. Even though this like loan shark debt collector shows up also and is hunting him.
Who is also comically dressed. Like, I knew he was a loan shark before we even were told that he was a loan shark.
Last year, Rasmussen sold the debt to Bulldog Collections. That's me.
But already by saying these words, we're making it sound more serious than it is.
Yes, if you wrote this plot down point by point, you'd be like, oh, horror movie? No.
It's all played for laughs. It's all very silly and ridiculous. Andrew Keegan drives the suspect car like 5 feet away and like nobody sees it and we're all good. And
I won't. You know, you really ought to get the club. Any idiot can hotwire a gremlin.
it's like, all right, let's find a camp. And then they just jump to like, they found a camp.
Just, they found it. Don't ask questions. It's just there.
Meanwhile, like, of course, they tell someone who tells someone who tells 30 people, and all the kids are like, yeah, we fucking hate our camps too. We want to be part of Anarchy Camp. And they're like, okay, I guess we have to let everybody in now.
And it really fits with, I think this is true of a lot of the 90s kids movies. All of the adults are just blissfully unaware of
And
everything.
awful.
So ignorant.
Here, Mr. Gutowski. Of course, you should know that our Trish takes her precious horses pretty seriously, so,
Acting, Dad. This is theater camp. Caitlin goes to writing camp.
And I know we talk about this all the time on the internet, but the children in this movie are max like 8th, 9th grade, right? Their parents are in their 30s for the most part. And these parents look 50, all of them. Really think, like, actually, what we should do, and I might do this in editing, is like look up those actors in other roles and just see, like, are they hot and young? Because I think they might be.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like it's the phenomenon. It's the George Costanza phenomenon. Because you watch Seinfeld and everyone's like, this is a 35-year-old man. He looks like he's 60 the entire run of the show.
Yes. Meanwhile, Christopher Lloyd is already like in his 60s at this point by the time he's doing this, and he has the most energy of anyone in the whole movie.
The games begin! Cross the net, sink the nice swimming, very dirty.
He does. He is really giving it his all in this role, and I appreciate
love
that.
it. Like, he is so wacky. He is wacky in a way that when we see those characters in 2023, we're just like childhood abuse, trauma, like he's gonna snap and murder all these kids. Like,
we were waiting for something bad to happen. It's like, what? We have just been totally broken by modern
nothing bad happened.
media.
Nothing bad happened. I mean, the things we got mad at were so tiny in this movie. It was like a 13-year-old boy makes a shitty comment, and we were like, oh, how dare you? But like that's how bad it gets.
And it's weirdly enough, it's actually addressed
Yes.
and called
Oh
out
my
as being a
God.
shitty comment, which I'm like, I don't actually think that would happen in a more modern movie, ironically.
Or it would be like angrier, or it would be like a fracture. I like how, and we'll like cut to.
That was really sweet, Zach.
You know, if you wore a skirt right now, I'd be in heaven.
It's very immature, don't you think?
I cannot think of her name.
I want to say it's Stacy, but I don't know if that's true.
I think you go to Stacy as a name. I don't know if you've noticed that.
That might be.
You're just
That might go to. I think I did say that in a recent
you did.
video.
Stacey
Okay.
is like your John Doe. You're like Stacy.
Okay. Maybe I need to do some soul searching. What Stacys have I known in my life and have they harmed me in some way? And I'm like holding on to that name.
Zach and Trish are flirting, and like they have there's an actual buildup, which I like. They don't just like kiss right away. Like they have an actual, like they have multiple interactions.
People don't really like me. They're just afraid of me.
Yeah, well, I'm not afraid of you.
You're not?
Nope. Because you're not that big. And you're not as bad as you want everyone to think you are.
It's just an experience.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think we've covered pretty much most of the plot except for the inevitable beginning of the end, the downfall of the camp, where the parents end up deciding to come for a sort of spontaneous parents' day, and other parents find out, and they all the kids realize that great, our parents are coming. They put together a very elaborate scheme with a lot of, as you said while we were watching, Home Alone-esque sort of gags and booby traps and things like that. It was legitimately fun to watch. But, you know, at one point, something goes wrong. The loan shark shows up. And as you might expect, everything is sort of found out.
The local cop shows up, and like they have made fun of him. This movie has no respect for police.
Yeah, no, they got no respect for Biff from Back to the Future. But I do want to point out, in the same vein of, you know, the parents don't really come off as the heroes necessarily, except for maybe Mud's dad.
In the end, he shows himself to
in
be
the
a real
end
person.
He does, and he bonds with him over the comic books
Yeah,
that
it's
he
cute.
had prevented him from reading earlier. But Zach's dad, who we've already established is a huge piece of shit, he basically just tortures him and then he leaves. Which, like, as the
Excellent.
audience, you do not hate, because again, it's not just like, oh, my dad doesn't get me. Like, my dad is
No.
actively horrible to me, so let's have some fun with him. That was kind of a delight.
It's so funny.
How you holding out?
Freezing my nuts off.
Well, you can thaw them out later. Got a ceasefire till 12:45, so I snuck some lunch through the lines.
All right.
Hey, watch out!
What?
Oh, a decoy. Here.
Oh, man, that looks good. Thanks.
And it's delightful because, you know, like, this is the stuff that he thought his son was having to deal with all summer. Crawling through mud, eating terrible food, like dodging bullets or paintballs or explosions. Like, oh, by the way, the reveal in the first 8 minutes that there is an army base next door, it doesn't come back into play until the very end, and it is, chef's kiss, brilliant.
That won't pay off immediately, but it's going to pay off.
It is an incredible payoff. Like, we didn't even, as we were watching the scene where it paid off, we both, I think it dawned on us at the same time, and we were like, that's so good.
Oh my God. Like, yeah, we both realized it like 2 seconds before the movie revealed it. Like, it was great.
Awesome. It was like, again, this is so well done. Like, no irony to what we're saying. We
Go
unironically
watch it.
enjoyed this movie.
Watch it with your friends. You will have the best time. It is funny. It is mildly offensive. And I'm saying, compared to like anything else you could watch this.
when you start a movie in the year of our Lord 2023 that was made in 1994, you go in with extremely low expectations as far as how much you're going to be offended. And so that's why we're saying like it's pretty good. It's did a pretty good job.
And like the kids are given enough dialogue and scenes to be like real kids. They feel like real kids doing this thing. I love that.
And we kept commenting on the wardrobe because it felt so, again, different from what you would see in a movie made today. Because, I mean, they're wearing like super baggy overalls. They're wearing like legitimate
shorts,
stuff.
Like
yes, stuff you would have worn as a kid. I mean, I think they put one of the main characters in like a crop top or bikini, maybe a couple of times, which fine. But like they generally are wearing things that we actually wore as kids
and like as children would be.
So the four main characters, they break them off sort of into two like couples, romantic interests. And so Andrew Keegan's character is, you know, has a romantic situation with the popular one that we're talking about. And I think the way that and then the other main character, Mud, with the other girl whose name is escaping me, the way that
I think it's Gabby.
Maybe. Yeah, the way they play those different romances is, I think, hinting at an age difference between those two couples, because Zach and Trish are a little bit more forwardly flirty. They kiss sooner, whereas like Mud and his romantic interest are very awkward in a very like realistic way
throughout the whole movie, which I like.
Yeah, so it makes you think like, okay, there's definitely an age gap between those two sets of kids, but I don't know how significant it is because they're at the same school, so it could be like 6th grade, 8th grade.
Andrew Keegan and Mud are like BFFs. And
secret BFFs.
Oh my god, this movie had it all.
It's so cute.
So how you doing, Lloyd? I'm okay. That musclehead in gym class tried to hang me up by my underwear again.
Wayne Fletcher? Don't worry, I've got him covered.
Okay. The one not cute thing, and this is gonna be, are we bad feminists by saying the woman doctor in this movie is fucked in the head?
Oh my god. She needs her to have her license revoked. She's like, oh, this 80-year-old bringing a child to me is certainly
son, who he says is his son, his like 12-year-old son.
And then, like, apparently, first mistake. Apparently, she has to report fireworks injuries to the cops, which feels fake, but maybe that was.
That seems like really noisy for the police.
I mean, and the cops, clearly the cop spends half the movie sleeping at a picnic bench in this movie. So like, I don't think they have a lot of like crime to follow up on. Maybe they do, and he's just not doing it. But her judgment, we should have been clued into her judgment being bad, because she's like, she clearly knows that Mud got injured from a firework.
Right. And
she's like, we're supposed to report this to the police. Wink. And it's like, so are you going to do that? Like,
also, did you get like a social security number? Like, did you collect any patient information? They don't have the same last name, I assume. Like, did she do anything?
Also, did the movie ever establish how he knows her? She's treating him like in her living room, it looks like.
Okay,
so I don't
know. I think they just like looked up doctor in the yellow pages closest to wherever this camp is, and they were like, hey, we need a doctor.
And she was like, I got you. Oh, also, I just realized this. She gave him drugs because, do you remember the Christopher Lloyd's character is like, oh, take those pills. So she gave.
Also, you know Christopher Lloyd took those.
Oh yeah. I think it's important to note that I assume this was maybe an Easter egg for the adults, but his character high the whole time.
Oh, 100% was in that cabin blazing it. And like, don't get us wrong, he wasn't trying to be responsible for the kids. Like, he is actually like, I am also going to have a lost summer. Don't bother me. We got this far. Yes. And they keep bothering him.
There's a scene where Mud goes to see him, and he's literally using some kind of tool to sort
jelly beans.
Felt as if I were walking with destiny, and that all my past life
had
been but a preparation for this hour and for this trial.
Winston Churchill, Jimi Hendrix of the spoken word.
Who's Jimi Hendrix?
Michael Jordan of the electric guitar.
While he listens to Winston Churchill records.
And we're supposed to believe that he's not toking up in that cabin. Come on.
And like all over the table are just like glass vases.
Vases.
Wink, wink. I mean, we looked for a bong and there wasn't one because it's a children's movie.
So this is going along with a trend of ours where we constantly look for like a deeper plot in a movie that's not actually there. We did this with After.
There's nothing
but
there.
You did have a theory, Violet, that secretly this woman doctor was his accomplice the whole time, and they didn't just meet by happenstance.
Because of the ending. If it hadn't ended that way, where she drives away in a convertible with him, happy,
how did they get the convertible?
Why is she so chill now after finding out? So she shows up and is like, "You lied to me," and he's like, That's the extent of the like argument.
And even in the confrontation scene, she's like, "You lied to me, you lovable scamp." He abducted
does not
children.
go to the police at any point. She never goes to the police. And then in the end, even after seeing all these parents show up and be like, "Our kids have been what? With who? Where?" She's like, "Have a great fall, everybody. See you next year."
I prescribed your child extra strength painkillers.
Only then was I like, they know each other and they like run cons across the country or something.
Because Mud does take the money, which apparently they all just have wads of cash that their parents gave them to give the camp, all done in cash, not suspicious at all. He hands that wad of cash to the loan shark and pays off basically the majority of the debt. So it could have been a scam, a really elaborate scam this whole time to get his debt paid off.
Oh my God. Well, it was genius and I enjoyed it. And the kids actually won out in the end. So no harm, no foul.
It was a high risk, high reward scam because
that's what
if
the
he'd
policeman said at the end when he drove away. It was just like, "No harm, no foul. See you next year." Like, it.
Wild.
Also, Andrew Keegan's dad, they go to the same school. So he's going to be like, "Oh man, that camp, like, shank him in the ass was real intense." And the parents are going to be like, "What now? The fake camp that our kids ran?" And he's going to be like, "What now?"
Oh, yeah, because he wasn't there for the whole reveal. That was an interesting choice. But also, do you think this dad gives enough of a shit about his child? Like, if his kid suddenly becomes like more obedient at home, do you think he's going to actually care like how that happened or inquire about
Dude, this
his
kid's
life?
not getting more obedient after this experience. This kid has tasted pure freedom. Imagine trying to raise like a 13-year-old after this.
I think, yeah. Okay, so if let's say there's a sequel, I think in the sequel we're envisioning Zach running away from home successfully and living somewhere, who knows where, maybe with Mud's family.
Sure,
I don't know.
I think that makes sense.
But they do kind of tease a sequel, but a sequel maybe like a decade later because
Let's make it college.
Or college, nowhere you.
Nowhere you.
We should write this. Who can greenlight this for us?
You're ever in Boca, don't look me up. I'll do that.